What up, what up? This is I know y'all been waiting for another video, and I just wanted to let the people who already follow me know that it might take a month or some weeks for me to come out with a video because it takes a lot of thought and focus and knowing, you know what I'm saying, on what to specifically come out with. And I would prefer to give y'all solid, you know what I'm saying, life-changing vibrational information rather than to just sit and talk on camera. You know what I'm saying? So it took me a minute to decide on what I want to speak on. So since I've moved into my apartment, I've been going through a lot of the books that I've started, the journals I've started since my spiritual awakening. And I was reading over this and I titled it Soul Guide to Divinity, Neutralizing the Ego. And I feel like a lot of the occultists and a lot of the melanated chaos gods watching my video who are ready to shed the lower self to wake up and to unlock the higher abilities of the higher self. You know what I'm saying? I felt like y'all would want to hear this because ultimately the goal of my videos is to encourage gods to understand that there's no point in praising the lower self. You know what I'm saying? We've taken on many incarnations. We've taken on multiple different lives in this realm of existence. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm Hannah, you know what I'm saying? But I've lived other egos. I've lived other names. I've lived in other bodies. I've came from other genetic sources. You know what I'm saying? So we got to learn to, for instance, when the Bible says, thou shalt not praise a false god. Basically what it's saying is, it's talking about our lower selves. Everything about the Bible is talking about an aspect of ourself. And when it says thou shalt not praise a lesser god or a false god, it's talking about our ego. It's talking about the human. It's talking about this show that we're experiencing. We should be able, me as Hannah, I should be able to let go of Hannah to experience myself from the soul level. Because there's a part of us that exists that never really incarnated onto this planet. Our spirits incarnated into a body to move into the physical and the flesh. But there's a part of us that has existed beyond this entire point of reality. And it's what guides us out. So, Soul Guide to Divinity, Neutralizing the Ego. I started writing this around, I'm positive it was like January, February. It was either December 2018 or like February 2019. So yeah. But I felt like y'all should hear this. I wrote, God is soul, is self. What do I mean by that? Well, the God, the generator of existence, the operator of this existence, and the destroyer of existences, basically the generator of creation, the operator of creation, and the destroyer of creation, and all things that live and thrive and exist off of the void, the womb of existence, is within the soul, and the soul is the self. You understand? Your soul is projecting a consciousness onto the spirit, and therefore the spirit projects the reality around it, the way that we can manifest into different levels of existence. And a lot of this information I know that I got off of Brother Panic, who is Occult Lectures on YouTube, and Bobby Hemmett. You can find him on Serious Times Media, Occult Clips, Masterly Foolish, all things that I will link down below. And I've also linked these on other videos, but I'll link it on this one too. So our ego. I'm sure a lot of people watching this are already familiar with ego. It's a series of events that we have learned from birth that don't exist. So we've learned them, and they're a series of events, but they don't exist. What do I mean? Well, the ego is what identifies with the human brain, the human body, existence in this realm, what's tangible, that's the ego. The ego is also known as our lower self. It's our matrix self, okay? So since we've incarnated into this body, since we've been infants, you know what I'm saying? Since we've come and gone off of this plane of existence, since we've reincarnated and incarnated, we learn certain things about this realm of existence specifically. When this is all really a simulation, we learn things and we tend to identify with them and apply them to ourself as if this is our ultimate form of being. And that's really the ego. For instance, to take offense is the ego. And it's something that you have to wake up and remind yourself. You know what I'm saying? It's natural for us as humans to take offense. You know what I'm saying? Like, for instance, somebody tells me that I don't know what I'm talking about, but I know what I'm talking about. But for them to tell me that I don't know what I talk about, for me to take offense is coming from the ego. Because you have to understand that the God in us, here's the thing. To save your soul is worth coming off crazy in a soulless world. This planet is built off of ego. By default, whether we accept it or not, you know what I'm saying? The fact that I wake up in the morning and, I think about these things and I focus on my soul and the source of my being, but I know I'm here. I'm on earth. I'm in flesh. What do I got to do? Pay my bills so that I can keep a balance between the physical, the malkuth of life, so that I can help continue to raise my consciousness to the keter, the kether of my existence. You know what I'm saying? And I'm a person who's been homeless, so I understand that I had to really start to neutralize my ego so that I can use my ego as a tool rather than to live off my ego and allow the ego to control me. I use my ego as a tool to move me through this realm of existence. Because this realm of existence, time in itself is an illusion. Basically, our souls never experienced this. And this is what I mean. We move through this realm of existence. Our souls are moving through this matrix. And in order to live out or move through this matrix, you incarnate into what this matrix is made of, the third dimension, flesh, a body. So actually moving through this dimension, you move through some type of vehicle, whether it's a light vehicle, you know what I'm saying? The soul itself is a vehicle through the universe. It's an aspect of the universe. It creates. So when your soul moved through this realm, it created your spirit. And your spirit created your body. Because your spirit incarnated into the body, and the body itself is a manifestation of God. The black woman is an image of God. This is why the black woman is the original human on the earth. This is why women give birth. You know what I'm saying? To create life on this planet is to have to pull down from another aspect of this planet. This planet exists in layers, and we're passing through it, and the longer we stay here, the more we reincarnate. Say I've lived hundreds of lives. That means I've been here for tens and hundreds, who knows how many thousands of millions of years I've been here. But time is relative to the experiencer, and time doesn't exist. And time exists in this realm. My spirit, my soul, an aspect of me which is connected to the source of all things. It is the seed. You know what I'm saying? It is the part of me that is the womb and is a part of the womb. I am the I am. So I'm moving through this realm. But when I connect to the soul, that's what the soul understands and sees. It's been moving through this realm and it's able to get out. But because the soul has sunk itself into lower dimensions, for instance, the tree of life, into this realm, and creation is based off of these principles when you look into the Kabbalah, that's when time becomes real. Because now when I experience this realm, I experience time. So the part of me that feels like it's been here for thousands of years is the spirit, the ego, which really doesn't exist. It only exists in this realm of existence because it didn't exist before I passed through here. Do you feel what I'm saying? That's a whole nother video I need to make because I can explain this a lot better. But this is brief. Now, my first page is confidence, not arrogance. And I believe this was inspired through Brother Panic. All right. The inner child. Dealing with confidence and knowing thyself. Belief made to knowing. What does that mean? Well, when we tap into spirituality and we start to recognize this term, the inner child, a lot of us, we deal with it through healing our traumas. A lot of us, we deal with it through tapping into our spirit, tapping into our primal energy, the things that we crave on an astral level rather than on a physical level. You know what I'm saying? And knowing thyself. So the inner child is, you notice how when we were children, we would believe, whether it was imaginary friends, whether it was our, we had a very illogical approach to life. And through logic was taught to us. We were very illogical. When we heard something, we personified it because we came into a human existence. We were able, for instance, a lot of children had imaginary friends. We were able to believe that this friend existed. And from believing in it existing, it turned into a knowing. And we knew that it existed. So therefore, it did exist. It existed off of our minds and off of our consciousness, which is connected to the source of all creation. We knew it existed. And that is what created the entity, the actual spirit of our imaginary friends. So this is the inner child. This is the part of us that is almost illogical. It's chaos energy. And it's the part of us that we need to heal and tap into because it is the source. The child is, you know what I'm saying, the seed, the source. It's almost like the fool in the tarot. So, humility and confidence are polarity forces meant to be balanced out to neutralize the ego. What do I mean by that? Well, humility gets the ego in check. It is knowing thyself is knowing others. And by humility, we don't really mean the egotistical sense of humility where, oh, I'm humble, you know what I'm saying, to the point where it's like, I know my worth and I know what I have and I know what I can gain and I know what my place in this realm of existence. But this is more of a humbling yourself to your divinity. This is why confidence and humility are almost one and the same. Because once you know yourself as a God, it creates this humbleness inside of you to where you no longer have to battle the physical realm because you already know yourself, and that's what creates the confidence. You're basically, the way knowing thyself is knowing others. So you're not made to feel like you are better or more advanced than the God around you. This is humility. Once you understand yourself and once you understand where you stand with ego and where you stand with the divinity, you'll understand other people. For instance, a lot of people walk around here when they get into spirituality and they're like, oh, I'm a God. I'm on a better level than everybody. I'm higher than everybody because of what I know, because of what I've tapped into. And it's like, on a logical air level, on a, you know what I'm saying, on a scientific, metaphysical level, on a physical level, yes. But on a cosmic level, no. This is what I mean. When you wake up to this shit and you understand, especially if you're melanated, when you understand that the fact that you are melanated is an actual connection to the source, once you realize that a lot of people around here have souls, this is what humility is. Don't ever forget that you were once asleep. That you were at a point where you once had to be woken up. Meaning just because you woke up and other people haven't yet because it wasn't their time doesn't mean that you get to take away from your knowledge, because then that actually interferes with your knowledge. Once you understand that you are a part of source, you understand that everybody else who has an aspect of you is a part of source. You know what I'm saying? This is all an illusion. So if people get lost in this realm of reality, if people think that they really are the human, that's the reality that they create, which is an illusion. But when you know the truth, does that really mean that that's all they are? No. You realize that once, if that entity, if that spirit, if that person were to wake up, you know that they are one and the same with you. And you have to keep that humility, because knowing thyself is knowing others. This is why I talk on YouTube, because I'm trying to build up the courage and the strength and the way and the understanding. I do a lot of research so that I can try to wake up people that it would be bold of me to say, oh, I'm higher than you, I'm better than you, because I know what I'm saying and because I am the teacher of you. But then it's like, no. The learner and the teacher are one and the same. Because for me to even be able to come to you and tell this to you, I would have had to teach it to myself and learn it for myself. And you would have to be able to learn it for yourself and teach it to yourself. Don't just take what I say. It has to resonate with you. You know what I'm saying? Everything is a chain reaction. Now, here's humility. When you've stepped into godhood. Basically, when you've decided to shed the lower aspect of yourself, the human aspect of yourself. All right, and I wrote something else on this. Not looking for social outcome and feeling like everyone has to know what you know. That's humility. Because when you're humble to the God, you understand the ego. When you've humbled yourself to the ego, you've humbled yourself to the God, and vice versa. They're polarity forces that complement each other in this realm of existence. Basically, you're taking nothing personal about yourself anymore. Whether your name is Adam, Hannah, your name could be Lucy, your name could be Javion, your name could be Sally, your name could be Marissa, anything, whatever your fucking name is. You know what I'm saying? Take it and take nothing personal about blank, insert your name anymore. Consider your flesh and your name your ego, and you'll start to understand. Thou shalt not worship false idols, the false lower self, the flesh, the ego. This is the matrix self, and you should want to exit this to tap into your godhood. The true self never existed on this planet. Stop identifying with the flesh and see how far it takes you. Okay? So, you're being humble to the God and not so much to humanity. You're actually humbling yourself to what you know that you are, rather than humbling yourself to this lower form of self. What do I look like to humble myself to this flesh? That's an aspect of the lower self, and it's important because it's above, so below. But if I only take it to this level, that's not enough. If I humble myself to this, I'm basically finding a way to submit myself to this. But I need to also be in charge of this. So when I humble myself to the God, I realize I am the God, I am in charge. You're battling the needs of the human, self-discipline. What is the self? It's the soul. So when you think of self-discipline, you're learning to take the flesh of self-discipline, the Saturnian energy of the flesh, and you're turning it into the Saturnian energy of the soul. You're battling the needs of the human. For instance, Saturn represents the third eye, and you're disciplining the human, and you're disciplining the self, you know what I'm saying, to wake up the self. You're battling the needs of the human. You master nothing, and knowledge is infinite. For instance, this is humility, to master nothing and that knowledge is infinite. You know what I'm saying? Once you wake up to this information, you realize you're not a human, and you're just here experiencing this place. Is that it? Well, that is a big aspect of it being it. But now, you're in the mode of the observer. You're no longer, as my brother Stone likes to say, you're no longer the used. You're the user of all of reality. You have to change your consciousness to change the reality and to change the wavelength and the direction of where your soul takes yourself, because you control the soul. You have to understand, I am not being used in this reality. I'm not being used to hold myself down to make this reality real. No, I am the user of this reality to experience it and to learn from it and to grow from it and to understand it so that I can use it to understand myself better, because it is a reflection of myself. And all creation is subjective to the law of the cosmos, and this is nothing but creation. To have great understanding of the law of creation because you have observed it while interacting with it. Okay? You can interact with this place without absorbing it, but instead observing it. You do not identify with it, therefore you do not give your power away to it to become it, but you let it become you. Okay? Confidence. Now, what is confidence? Because humility was about subjecting yourself. Confidence is about asserting yourself. Okay? Confidence is knowing all power of knowledge and information is within your own heart. Knowing that you came from the source of all information and tapping into your akasha and tapping into the knowledge that's stored within your DNA, within your soul. Fuck your DNA. It's stored within your soul. If you are the soul, if you are the source of all information, then somewhere inside of you, somewhere within you, it is you. It is stored. And you have to find a way to see past or to venture past this realm of existence that you know that you're not really a part of. You're just passing through it. You're in the world, you're not of the world. So you find a way to search for that again with a light heart. The lightest heart, the Mayat, realizes you are passing through this realm of existence and it does not define you. It is not you. You are not of it. It is an aspect that came from you. Everything that this realm of existence was created off of, it got from you. Because you are the great womb of existence. Nothing can influence doubt in your capability and what you know of thyself and others. When you're here, you get introduced to archonic energy, psychic vampires, misinformation, white people stealing history, wiping history, retaking it, reclaiming it, turning it evil. Once you get into the knowledge of it, it can be tough if you're trying to always prove to other people who are not ready, to other spirits who are not ready to wake up. It can be tough. And that's the thing about humility and confidence. When you're confident, confidence is knowing the truth and standing by it and not let anything hinder that confidence because you're not trying to prove it on an egotistical level. Humility is the same, is it not? Because you know it and because you know it's true, you're humble to it and you're not trying to gain social status and you're not trying to wake up an entity or a thing that is not ready because you understand that time is relative and we all move on our own. Everything is meant to be and everything is out of love because the great womb, the great cosmic mother is influencing this entire reality. Whether we forget or not, when we always remember that the highest source of existence will never lose, it's always influencing this reality, a great awakening is coming for each and every one of us. If we are a part of the source, we will remain a part of the source. This is all an illusion. It never existed. Our soul was never here. So if there's a lot of people who are still asleep, you know what I'm saying? And it's just like, okay, they're asleep. But does that really hinder an aspect of themselves that was never even here? No. So you got to let certain shit be. You just got to be here and observe and see how this place locks people down and understand. And by observing, you're able to learn and understand. By observing, it makes you humble to understand when and where and how and who to speak this information to. Because you can open the door. That's what humility is. And confidence. Confidence is to introduce somebody and to open the door and to know that you know what you know and to be able to speak to a certain vibration to help open the door. But humility is to know that you can't always push people through the door because it's not their time. How would you like if somebody pushed you through the door and you were unable to process all the knowledge and you weren't ready for the knowledge, and now the knowledge has become a block for you, and now you got to work through all of this oncoming shit to be able to understand? Don't you want to be able to understand the knowledge on your own time and on your own level, to gradually be able to process the knowledge, rather than for somebody or something to force you into it and it hits you like a brick and now you have trouble understanding it? And now that's a whole nother cycle you have to go through, a whole nother cleansing you have to go through. Humility. Start with the self before others. You know what I'm saying? Nothing can influence doubt in your capability. It's like the magician and the tarot. Once you tap into that shit, it doesn't matter what nobody says. You know how many people I have tell me that I'm racist because of the things that I know? I'm fucking, I have a white mom and a fucking black dad. People tell me all the time I'm racist towards white people because of the things that I say, because of what I know. And people tell me all the time, you're not black. You don't know what you're talking about. You're not one of us. But because I know what I am and where I came from and that I incarnated into a biracial's body, that's where the humility lies. It's like, you know what I'm saying? If you don't understand it, if you don't know it, I don't require you to, because I already know myself. That's the confidence. I'm not going to let what other people say distract me or take me off of my spiritual journey. That's why I'm humble to the information. You know what I'm saying? Whether I'm the truth or not, I will find out regardless. But as long as I stand in what I stand in, I know that I'm true. I've been proven that I'm the truth. And until I'm proven otherwise, I stand out with confidence and humility. Confidence is within the divine self. Humility is within the divine self. You can learn that. Once you learn that in your lower carnal self, once you learn confidence in the carnal self, you know what I'm saying? Confidence in the carnal self is like the solar plexus, for instance. Humility is, you know, the sacral chakra. You know what I'm saying? The pleasure chakra. You know what I'm saying? The as above, so below. Emotion. I wrote on the next page, I wrote on emotion from Neutralizing the Ego. You are God. You are the soul. You are invincible and free of emotional harm. Emotion cannot kill you. Balance emotion in your three lower chakras. What do I mean? That's where the humility and the confidence came from. That's why that was the first page. Once you are humble, once you know that you are God, you can't help but be humble to it. You're almost not giving in to the lower aspect of what would make you a God. You're the soul. You know you're invincible. You know you exist. You know you cannot die. You can be born in a realm of existence which requires your birth, but you know that you're already born. You're already alive, whether you die or not. You are the, you are, I am the I am. That's why emotional harm, for you to go through emotional harm, the more that you are harmed in this realm of existence emotionally, the more it's teaching you to be the observer, to be the user, not the used, to observe, to understand that you are, the more that you hurt, that's the thing. When we hurt in this realm of existence, when we suffer, we see it as, oh, this place hates us, this place is evil, it's the devil. It is, it is, but on the other aspect of it, it's teaching us about our higher self. There's something about this place that's nudging the soul, and it's like, hey, you don't have to feel this. You know this. You've felt it. Now be the observer of it. Heal from it. There's something knocking on our soul's door. This is why all of the chakras, the heart chakra is the gateway chakra. It's the midpoint. It's something about it, okay? I'll keep going. For instance, with emotion, Bobby Hemmett talked about the lower astral realms. There are dual levels of existence, and these realms are of souls and spirits living in the physical world and also spirits of that specific realm. Realms related to the incident which caused the suffering, for instance, broken hearts, disappointment with relationships, etc. So, okay, I'm going to stop there. I'm going to reread this. There are dual levels of existence. And these realms are of souls and spirits living in the physical world and also the spirits of that realm. And these realms can be related to the incident which causes the suffering. Basically, suffering can hold us down to a certain realm because we relate to it so much. A lot of people are stuck in the realm of pleasure, sexual pleasure. A lot of people are stuck in the realm of heartbreak. A lot of people are stuck in the realm of money, finances, you know what I'm saying, cockiness, showing off, which is also a form of suffering and pain. Because we're constantly having to prove our wealth and to show people, I deserve this, I'm better than you, I'm better than you. That comes from a place of pain. You notice how a lot of white people who, when they were born into rich lifestyles, when they were born into wealthy lifestyles, they don't really flex off of name brands. They don't make songs about it. They don't flex on it because it's what they were used to. It's what their mind, it's what their ego has been used to. So they don't feel like they have to prove it to anybody that the way that they got there. They don't have to prove to anybody that they deserved it, or, you know what I'm saying, or that they're better than anybody, because it's what they know. They have no idea what it's like to be in poverty. That's why a lot of white people, they have no idea what it's like to be in poverty. They don't have no idea what it's like to struggle. You comment on white people's food and they find offense to it because there's a fragility to constantly being coddled in the ego. If you're constantly coddled in the ego, if your ego, for instance, white people, if your ego is always being taken care of and protected, it's way too vulnerable to its opposite. Meanwhile, black people, they understand what it's like to be vulnerable. They understand what it's like to go through the hellish aspects of this realm. Therefore, they get a stronger ego. And then when it does come to being, that's what I'm saying, don't let poverty or prosperity fool you. When people who come from poverty come into prosperity, you shouldn't let it fool you and you shouldn't let it define you. You should let it be a learning lesson. For instance, people who come from prosperity and go into poverty, you shouldn't let it fool you. You should let it, everything that you know and everything that you should learn and everything that you're born into should play an aspect into the opposite. You know what I'm saying? Our egos are sometimes, we relate so much to what we're used to, we're almost not ready for what we're not used to. That's why we should become the observer. We should become the user of situations, not the used. To get your spirit out of certain lower realms, you have to release from trauma. Because the mind is all. If I attach myself to, for instance, what's the trauma I've been through? I've been through heartbreak. I've lost somebody that I didn't want to lose. I've lost everything that I came from. I've been homeless, you know what I'm saying? But if I attached myself to the trauma, that's the thing. I was homeless. I was sleeping on the ground. I was breaking into churches and shit. I was living off of shelters. Shelters were feeding me day-old Publix chicken. Okay, I've been through it. I've seen it. I had to beg my mom to wash my clothes. And it was traumatic. It hurt. It caused me pain. But I allowed the human aspect of myself not to numb itself, but I humbled myself to the experience. Because I realized this experience, I am a God. I am a higher being. And I know that I can use this experience to teach me something so much more vast. So I humbled myself and I kept my confidence, and here I am in my own shit. I used that experience of reaching the bottom of the bottom to teach me how to reach the top of the top, how to depend on myself. That shit taught me how to depend on my fucking self. That shit taught me that I don't want to suffer. Okay, I'm a person, I am a spirit, I'm a soul. I knew that I didn't want to suffer. As long as I was here, I was going to use this place as a learning mechanism. And when I felt homeless, I lived through it. Did I kill myself? Did I let myself go to drugs? Did I let myself go to sex? No. I stayed put and I experienced it and I went through it. I experienced the hotels. I experienced the ground. I experienced the sand. I did what I could to make my homelessness better for me because I am a God and because I was confident and I knew that I would get out of it. So what did I do? I got out of this realm by accepting the realm, staying pure and unconditional and balanced and light in myself and in my being. And I released myself from that trauma. Physically, mentally, emotionally, and cosmically. I accessed all elements of myself and I got myself out of it. And used it as a learning lesson. But if I were to have identified with it, I'd still probably be homeless to this day. Everything in this is a game. It's a toy. It's something teaching you about the spirit. And once you learn shit from this realm of existence, once you apply it, you take it onto the next level. It's become Akashic now. It's become a record. It's been implanted in the DNA. I rewrote my DNA. Because I know a lot of the traumatic things that are written in my DNA from my mom and my dad's side. I've experienced them. I've lived them. They came into me through my blood. But I healed them. Because I was not going to identify with them. Because I understood myself and I knew myself. And I knew that I was a soul and a spirit from a higher realm. And then all I did was experience or see from the eyes of this particular human being. I didn't allow myself to identify with the pains and the traumas. And then when I did, I learned from it. I learned, oh God, my traumas are coming from identification. I am more than this experience. You got to trust God will never leave your side. God, you are God. You are the soul. You got to trust your soul would not put you in the situation if you couldn't handle it. Because your soul is for the greater good of you passing through lower realms of existence. The ego might put you through things you feel like you can't handle. But the ego can be neutralized through the soul. And once you tap into your soul, the ego has no power. But promise you the soul would never put you through shit that you can't handle. That's not how the law of the universe works. Every bit of your ego should be made to serve your soul and divinity, like I just said. Emotional control and understanding is very vital to your journey into the underworld. The underworld being your subconscious, being shadow work, being your Akashic records, being to remembering what you've been through and what you learned from them, so that you can use it as information, as knowledge. That's why the aspect of air is important. We use water as the experience. We use air as the understanding and the control, the order, you know what I'm saying, to help move us through what we've experienced. The water is the feeling. For us to be able to see, we must feel. So we use what we felt to see. And then the earth is the manifestation, while fire is the spark, the beginning, the source, okay? What do the chakras teach us? The root teaches us about survival, teaches us about grounding. You're eliminating fear. The sacral teaches about pleasure, sexual energy. Eliminate guilt. Solar plexus, happiness, willpower. Eliminate shame. Heart, unconditional love. Eliminate grief. The gateway. Throat, truth. Speech, eliminate lies to self and all. Pineal, intuition, spiritual eye, melanin, eliminate the illusion. Crown, cosmic energy of the self, detach from the ego. This is Jacob's ladder. Solitude. Solitude is very good for neutralizing the ego. What does solitude teach us? That the self, yourself, myself, but yourself is the beginning. This experience is about elevating the Christ, the self, the spark, the star, the soul that moves up the spine. Power doesn't exist outside of ourself. I mean, it does, but does it? Think about it. My power doesn't exist outside of myself, correct? So all the power that has anything to do with me will not exist outside of me. Same way with, say there's 3 other people in the room. All 3 of them, their power does not exist outside of their self. So does power itself really exist out of the idea of self? I'm self. He's self. She's self. He's self and she's self. So that's 5 people. So there's 2 girls, 2 guys in the room. That's 4 people, and I'm the 3rd. So out of the 5 of us, all of our power exists within ourselves. So there's power that exists out of us, but only in a reflection of us, another human being. You feel me? Power doesn't exist outside of the self. My power doesn't exist outside of me, and his power doesn't exist outside of him. This is humility and humbling yourself. Once you understand the God that you are, and within you, you understand the God in others. He, as a human, is a reflection of me as a human, and me as a human is a reflection of him as a human. Our power doesn't exist outside of ourself. Therefore, power doesn't exist outside of what is called the self. The consciousness, the spirit, the soul, the mind. In consciousness, you must change the idea that you still have to obtain power. Because why would you have to obtain power if it's something outside of yourself? Where am I going to get it? You are the power. You have to understand the power comes from within. It's something that's woken up. It's something that's already there. It's something that you have to drive and influence. That's where fire comes from. That's why fire talks about the source. Fire energy. It's a passion. It's a drive from within. It's a drive from the source. You don't have to obtain it. You are it. Okay. Solitude. You have to be able to be in blissful solitude even amongst a crowd. That's how you neutralize the ego. Solitude is internal. Loneliness is more external, but solitude is internal. Social status and interaction are not necessary as a God. Do not strive for that, meaning that doesn't mean you have to hold yourself back from it. Before people type it, doesn't mean you have to hold yourself back from it because it's an experience. You're the user. You're experiencing it, but you should not have to strive for it because it's outside of you and it's not something that's required to understand yourself and to understand life as a God. Be the basis of your self-knowledge. Don't compare yourself to others or anything because you're different and you're not the same. You're from the same source, but you're not living the same thing. I promise you. There's something deep about this place. You're unique, and the physical is an illusion. We're going into the age of Aquarius, where everybody's going to tap into what makes them unique. Everybody's going to tap into the rebellious side of what makes everything the same. That's why the Pisces was all about worshiping something outside of yourself. The age of Pisces was about the whole, the sameness, the law, the order. But Aquarius is about the rebellion. Aquarius is all about the self that will affect the whole, rather than the whole affecting the self. Pisces is about the whole affecting the self, the sacrifice of the self, while Aquarius is about the self affecting the whole, the complete focus of the self. Meanwhile, that's why their sister sign is the Leo, the focus on the self. It's very important. We're going into this age, guys. So you're going to be almost forced, if you can't handle it, you're going to have to tap into the self. What is the self? The soul, the spirit, the akasha, the healing. You're going to have to heal the self. You're going to have to do all these things. Self is the only real way to the underworld. You have to change your thinking. Remember, everything is telling you something. One of the biggest goals you have is convincing the mind. Because your entire reality is based off of what you've convinced the mind. Rid yourself of negative belief. And I'm going to make a part 2 to this video, guys, because, yeah, this is going to be long, all right? But, nah, I'm going to finish it now. All right. Change of thinking. You have to remember, everything is telling you something. One of the biggest goals you have is convincing the mind. For instance, everything in this realm of reality is telling me something. Everything. If you get depressed off of a certain situation, what about that situation is telling you to fix or to raise an aspect of you? If you suffer, here's the thing about suffering. It's all about your consciousness and where your mind is at. If you suffer in this realm, you can either let that be your enemy or you can let that be your friend. You can let that be love. That's why we have to deal with fear in our root chakra, because if we're in a fear of suffering, we're in a fear of higher knowledge. We're in a fear of understanding. We're in a fear of getting to know why we're in fear. You have to be able to understand that when we suffer, it's telling us something. And we have to be able to tap into the mind and when we believe in something, when we want something, you have to understand it's natural as a human. When you're in this realm, you don't want to work. That's why work is here. Work is here to teach us about what we want. Work And it's a form of slavery and labor. It's here to teach us that it's telling us something. The suffering that we get from having to wake up at 6 a.m. every day to go work for a bunch of people who don't even fucking pay us enough, for the sacrifice of our mental and physical health and our peace. You got to realize that shit is telling you something from a level of spirit. And as long as you tap into it and understand it, it's coming from a place of love. Everything is based off of what you convince the mind. You have to rid yourself of negative belief. Once you tell yourself, you have to convince the mind that you want more. And once you convince the mind that you're worth more and that you can do more and that you can get more, you do. The mind is the birthplace of all action. You're not going to just get up and go do something better for yourself unless your mind tells you you want it or that you need to, unless you're somehow given some type of reason. That's why the mind is related to fire and air. Entities. Create entities that serve you. Release the negative entities you may have created that serve the negative thoughts you receive. Do not worry. For instance, fear is an entity. So you have to find a way to neutralize that or rid it of your being. Illness is an entity. You have to find a way. If you're ill, for instance, say you catch diabetes or something, you have to find a way to turn that around. Get into herbs. There is medicine all around us. Our mind. Diabetes is a fucking entity because you somehow feared it, or because you somehow knew of it, or because somehow you fed it. You have to find a way to unfeed that entity. Everything is not outside of you. Diabetes is a creation. It's not the God of you. Once you catch that shit, it is not certain in you. For instance, knowing. For instance, you know how the word no is in knowing? You're being able to say no to a thought, situation, or anything that isn't of what you know. You know your mission, yourself, and what is true. Don't allow ego to misguide you. If it's not serving you, if it's holding you back, if it's against what you feel, because feeling is seeing, if it's against what you feel is right, or if it's against your pleasures or your cosmic bliss, don't let it misguide you. Let it teach you. Experience it and you know what I'm saying? Transfer the energy into something else. Transform it. There's a word for that. Transmutate the energy. Don't allow your ego to misguide you, but instead transmutate the energy that you feel you receive from you. You know, any negativity, and let that teach you and guide you and show you something new. Divorce, okay, your human thought pattern. Morality. What is morality? When we feel like what's right or wrong. And morality can be usually described through religion. For instance, a lot of people say you're Christian. You feel like morality is, oh, I should not have sex before marriage. That's a human aspect. You're not going to, your spirit, your soul, you're just experiencing this place that only exists in this realm. It doesn't even exist. It's a written law. It's a made up law. You know what I'm saying? You're actually holding your mind back from believing something that ultimately is not true. So you got to understand with your morals, you got to understand what is true and what isn't true. What's only a made up aspect in our mind, what really matters to our soul, what really matters to keep our heart light, and what really is just a form of holding our spirit down. You have to understand that through morality, and that's a whole other video I'll make. You have to release doubt because you're confident. If you know that you're a God and you know you can manifest your reality, you release doubt. You release fear. That's the root chakra. That'll hold you back from getting anywhere outside of what you're comfortable in. And we're all comfortable in what we see and know, the flesh. You have to divorce love based off of feelings. So that you have to find a way to have love, which is ruled by the heart chakra, the gateway chakra. You have to find a way to make love pure, natural. Love has to come from understanding, knowledge, and source. Love cannot come from, oh, I love her because she got a fat ass. I love her because she pays my bills. I love her because she's fun to hang out with. That's cool and all, but once you get rid of all of these ideas that you create, once you get rid of all these entities that you've attached to the idea of a person that serve you, that's the thing about the ego. That's the thing about the human. Our pleasure comes from being served, what we obtain. That's why the sacral is ruled by Taurus. It's about what we obtain, what we feel. You know what I'm saying? That's why a lot of rich people, they get money and they feel like, oh, life is good, life is great, I'm great, because they're feeding an aspect of themselves that they've not really neutralized and connected with the higher form of themselves. Money isn't everything. You have to release yourself from emotional harm. You are the observer. You are using what could potentially harm you to understand why it would harm you and what you got to do to transmutate that into godhood, into strength, into finding a way to balance out your heart so you are not reincarnated back into this realm of reality because you do not identify. Emotional harm comes from identifying. It comes from being insulted in this realm. Logic and intellect, we have to divorce some of these things, some of these fixed ideas that we have. What's logical? What makes sense? What have we learned? What have we been taught that makes sense? Logic is good for explaining metaphysics, but also at the same time, it can hold us back at the same time because logic and intellect are a form of creation. They are a form of what is fixed. They are a form of a fixed structure of reality. And if we continue to think and live off of fixed, structures of reality, we stay within that box. So you have to learn how to neutralize your logic and your intellect with your illogic, and your intuition. Empathy and sympathy, these things can cause us to suffer for other people. We have to learn to take our empathy and our sympathy. That doesn't mean be cold and heartless, because then that's going to hold you back from learning things off of a water-based aspect. You're going to have to learn how to take empathy and turn it into compassion. But compassion, and to be compassionate to others, we have to be compassionate to ourselves. And to be compassionate to the self has to do with letting go of emotional harm, like I already explained. So for us to have empathy and sympathy, we have to transmutate that into compassion and understanding where other people come from without absorbing and feeling it and experiencing it, so that we can be a good healer and tool for ourselves if we want to be that for other people. But the self, to start with the self, this is what the Age of Aquarius coming December 21st, 2020 is going to be about. It's about dealing with the self. And if everybody deals with the self, then the whole is already taken care of. Comfort. We have to get rid of comfort. That's also Taurian energy. But we got to get rid of comfort. Okay? Sometimes we're comfortable in what we're used to, and your comfort is all a state of mind. That's why the sacral chakra also deals with the third eye. Pleasure, the third eye. Comfort is all about, but the third eye talks more about actual truth, while Taurus, that the sacral chakra talks about tradition, has been introduced to us, what we're used to, what we've been given to, where we stand, where we've started. You know what I'm saying? We have to find a way to find comfort in both and balance them out. You know what I'm saying? You have to have comfort in the truth. You have to have comfort in higher knowing, higher knowledge. You have to have comfort in yourself as a god. You know what I'm saying? Rather than having comfort in, because a lot of people don't even know that they're comfortable. A lot of people, they are comfortable in suffering. When we're so used to being easily offended, when we're so used to being hurt, when we're so used to struggling, I've noticed this a lot in the Black community. A lot of people are comfortable in having to struggle financially. That's the comfort I'm talking about that you have to divorce. Argumentation and debate. You've got to understand that this is a long ass book. I'm gonna do a part 2 of this, all right, y'all? Because I got a lot of shit I gotta do. All right.